Yes, yes, Dubey sir. Now, right now, you can start.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back again this Thursday evening. Uh, as I have been doing in earlier Thursday dialogue meetings, we have based our dialogue on chapter 17 of the book, The Word Within. And I'm sure most of us know now what this book is all about. But for those who are joining for the first time, uh, during the Second World War period from 1939 to 1945, Christie was forbidden by the US government to have any public meeting because they thought he's a pacifist, he's against war, and that they did not want. So he was not allowed to conduct any large gathering or talks. So during these 6 years, people from all walks of life would travel to him and have one-to-one dialogue discussing their issues and problems and so on. So these dialogues are collected and published by uh, KFA, the Krishnamurti Foundation of America, in a book called The Word Within. So I'm taking chapter 17 today. The theme is right thinking, not right thoughts. So I'll just read out. Please bear with me. Dr. J from a hospital of wounded and maimed soldiers said it was terrible to see young fellows utterly crippled for life, mentally and physically. If some of them recovered, they were sent off to the front to be maimed or wounded again. He himself did not see the benefits of war and was utterly opposed to it, destroying civilization in the name of civilization. But he was deeply moved and was weary of stemming physical pain. What was the good of it all? You healed, but only for them to be wounded again, to be maimed again or killed. What for? The more questions one asks, the more hopeless and desperate the situation becomes. If there is no intelligent and true answer, the intelligent and true answer does not lie in putting together the many parts and drawing a neat and satisfying conclusion. The many parts do not make the whole. But when the whole is understood and felt, the part fits in and have significance. To understand the whole, the worship of the part, the country, the race, the class, the family, the me must cease. When the mind is occupied and becomes a slave to the part, then ruthlessness, competition, pursuit of wealth, fame, and sensory values become all important. Then peace is only another means of war, with all the consequences of great catastrophes, hunger, crippling of body and mind, confusion, sorrow, and so on. Until each one realizes this, what worldliness, sensuality, and personal immortality in their many different forms lead to, there will be catastrophes, revolutions, wars, and misery. Each one must comprehend this and abandon the cause of misery. Thus, there will be intelligent and spiritual groups which will bring about lasting peace. But the doctor said this would take a very long time, and in the meantime, suffering would go on with greater confusion. To have created the present stupidity and cruelty took time and cunning thought, centuries of ignorance and superstition. Naturally, it will require patience and study to bring about a different comprehension. In this matter, time must not be considered, but what is important is for each one to strive for self knowledge, which alone brings about completeness and so peace and compassion. Self knowledge brings about right thinking, which is not according to a pattern, a standard, nor is right thinking having good thoughts or right thoughts, which are but limited, incomplete. But through self awareness of what one thinks and feels, and by thinking and feeling them out as fully and completely as one can, one begins to perceive, perhaps dimly at first, what is right thinking. Right thinking frees thought from craving, which is morality, virtue. It lays the foundation for all action and relationship with the one or with the many. From this arises fearlessness and so love and compassion. Upon this foundation, all meditation must be based, for meditation is also freeing thought from craving, which is virtue. The realization of the Supreme is the end of all life. Anyone who wants to make a comment on this, please? Yes, Harshad Bhai. Unmute. Unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you able to hear?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yes. Well, when I think about the situation in which this doctor worked, it seemed like hopeless because he was curing all the soldiers. But when they get cured, they again went to the war and again they got injured. So that it looks like a bucket in which you pour water, but at the bottom there is a hole and the water is leaking. So that kind of work doctor was doing and he was not happy. So either the doctor can say to himself that he is doing his duty, whatever he is doing, and he cannot expect the result, good result, like Bhagavad Gita says. But Krishna ji is advising something like knowledge of the self knowledge. And Krishna ji makes some kind of comment that only when each one of us is really have real understanding, then there will be no war. But that seems kind of impossible. Human beings have fought wars for thousands of years. And so the only solution is the individual solution. If I have a problem, something is bothering me, I must look very carefully and be free from the negative effect of that. And here, many parts do not make the whole. That is what Krishnaji says. That means our body may be whole, our mind is also working, but if there is no intelligence, then there is no wholeness, and whatever we do will create problems because we don't have the clarity, love, compassion. All these things are required in order to not create problem for ourselves and for the world. And the parts which Krishnaji talks about is the country, like worship of the country, the race, the class, the family, and finally the sense of me. It is also a kind of divisory feeling when there is a sense of me. So to be free from all that, it is extremely difficult for human beings. Very few maybe can come to that. And and in the end, where Krishna ji says that we need to be aware of everything, whatever the thoughts are coming, and looking at it from a different dimension than thinking, because generally we analyze and we come to certain conclusions, but that is in the thinking plane only. Only when a person can come out from the thinking plane from and can look at thinking very, very clearly, then one can see what this thinking is doing. And if there are any problems, they can be seen right at the source of the problem. So that seems to be the real challenge. And what Krishnaji calls right thinking is to see clearly from a different dimension than thinking itself. So, okay, I have finished. Thank you.
I think Krishnaji is not suggesting any method of solving this problem, because as we know, during the Second World War and also during the Vietnam War, there was compulsory drafting of Americans during, in certain age, that they have to go and work. Work for the country or fight for the country, be drafted in the army or air force or navy, depending on their background. And 3 or 4 years they have to serve and come back. So he's not suggesting any reason for it, but he has made a beautiful distinction between right thinking and right thought. So, as he says, right thinking comes from self-knowledge. Earlier, he used to say wisdom. Now, in the later literature, he has been using self-knowledge, which is knowing oneself. And if one has the self-knowledge, then the thinking will be the right thinking. The action will be the right action. So I would like others also to get a little deeper into this and explore what all this means. Yes, Mr. Ramarao, please unmute yourself. Unmute. Unmute, sir. You are muted. Yeah. You are muted. You are muted. Unmute.
Sir, when you say right thinking, do you
Yes,
mean
I can hear you now. Yeah.
when you say right thinking, do you mean it is a attitude?
See, thinking basically means response of memory, right? Normally, that is what it means, because uh, thought emanates from our mind, which is our experience, knowledge, reactions, or instincts, all that. So, and attitude is also based on our conditioning. So, I don't see much difference between attitude and thinking per se. But right thinking is something where self is not involved. I would like Harshad Bhai to clarify it a little more, but that's the way
Yeah.
I look at it.
Yes. What I feel is that what we call this mind is made up of two things. One is these thoughts which are coming, and then there is something, another dimension, which is not thought, which Krishnaji calls it awareness or intelligence. And this awareness is generally not awakened, though people will say that I am aware of this, I am aware of that, but that is just a thinking about awareness. The real awareness is when a person can see clearly the beginning of a thought. That means a sense of silence in which thoughts coming and going can be seen clearly as they are without any involvement with what one is watching. So that is what Krishnaji calls choiceless awareness. And as long as there is this choiceless awareness is there, thinking doesn't create any problem and it moves in a proper way, in the straight way, not creating any conflict between the thinker, this sense of I, which comes from thinking, and thinking. So when we say it should be like this, then there is a division between what is and what should be. So in the state of choiceless awareness, thinking moves straight without creating any problem, and it is seen as it is. And that maybe we can call it the right thinking, which thinking is there, but it is seen very clearly. And so it doesn't create any division, no problem. That is what I understand. And generally, this awareness is hidden under dense layers of thinking, thoughts. And so it is buried, and our mind is only superficially jumping from one thought to another thought. And so there is no gap between our thoughts. But due to some technique or meditation or some way, there is a gap is created between two thoughts. Then there is a kind of a silence, and during that silence, this awareness which is buried under, it comes up and looks at the thinking from the top. So the thinking is going on, and it is able to see itself very clearly. So sometimes I say that thinking is like a two-dimensional plane, and as long as we are on the two-dimensional plane, we cannot see thinking very, very clearly. But when we come out in the third dimension, rise above, then we can see what thinking is doing. And then that is what is called awareness. And Krishnaji's teachings are about awakening of this intelligence or awareness, which can see things and thoughts as they are without thinking. It means looking non-verbally everything. And so that is the real challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Arshadai. I think Durgaji wants to say something. Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
First of all, it's good to see you back, sir, in action. I think for the past 2 weeks, you were not there on Sunday sessions also.
Yes,
Yeah.
we had the foundation meeting from 12th to 21st, so we were busy all these days. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's good to see you back. Yes, sir. Yeah, as usual, this is a very weighty kind of a passage. Right thinking, not right thoughts. And there are a whole lot of points, sir. I hope I'm loud and all.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. There are a whole lot of points in this, sir. And I think you can say the third paragraph onwards. The more questions one asks, the more hopeless and desperate the situation becomes. If there is no intelligent and true answer, the whole paragraph has got so many points in it, sir. The intelligent and true answer does not lie in putting together the many parts and drawing a neat and satisfying conclusion. The many parts do not make the whole, but when the whole is understood and felt, the parts fit in and have significance. So this point is I think a very, very fundamental point for us, all of us, to take into consideration and ponder and reflect upon. I think in our life, what usually we do is, any problem comes, we just want to, if we just bring it to our day-to-day life situations. So I think it's better to understand Krishna is understanding ourselves only, and the whole passage speaks about that only. So he said, and it looks so baffling for us, so many weighty points and how to start from there and all. So I think these are the doubts we all get. So he says, but any situation, how can we know about the whole? What is the whole about it? So then there is a way of going about things, maybe, take as many points, as many factors into consideration, because at any given point of time, our understanding can be only that much. We are not superhuman beings that we know all the things and all. So maybe by expanding our minds, to stretching a bit little more, I think that's how this becomes like a learning process. It's not reading and vague discussions. Like, if we start keep applying to our day-to-day life situations, then it is becoming a, like, it becomes a more interactive and learning process, sir. And there are so many weighty points, and just to pinpoint one is not easy. So that's a very important point, he says. And he also enumerated, the country, the race, the class, the family, the me must cease. So any decision, if you, any action, it's always oriented towards me. What is in for me? What am I going to get? I think mostly our actions are like that. So, and it's very easy for us to not to bother much about the country, the race, the class, the family. I think after reading Krishnaji for so many years, I think we can make do without all of them. But the me, I think that's the most difficult part for everybody, sir. So since we cannot jump into anything just like that, but when we do our actions, can we just keep looking at us? Is it is my me, like, am I doing all these things for my selfish and all those motives? I think doing little bit like this, I think, no, I think we can keep going, more and more into it, sir. So he says the me, that is what is most of it is a confining process. So without without being so selfish, so self-oriented, can I solve this situation any which way? Maybe to some extent, sir. I think I'll just stop here, and maybe it's a few more contributions, and I will come back to it later, sir. Right now, I was thinking of expanding this point only.
I
Yeah.
think you're rightly said, Durgaji, because when he says that our concern becomes mainly the parts and we don't look or see the whole,
Yes, sir.
perhaps he means that I'm worried about the war because that is the immediate attention that is drawing, to me. But
Yes.
I'm not seeing the whole structure of the society. Why
Yes.
is there a war? And
Yeah.
why are we fighting? Why do we have such a strong national feelings? And so on.
Yes.
So he says,
Yes.
unless we see the whole, the,
Yeah.
part, the parts will always be a problem.
Yes,
And
sir.
that problem is not something outside, it's right within me because I'm the one who's creating this situation. Perhaps
Yes.
this is what
Yes,
he's
sir.
pointing towards.
Yes.
Anandji wants to say something. Well, we'll hear him. Yeah. Anandji, please. Unmute, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, I mean, one point, I mean, I'm raising, sir, I mean, can I observe that I'm a fragment, sir? As long as I'm a fragment, I will not know what the whole is, or I cannot observe the whole. So that is one, I mean, which we are discussing just now. The other thing, sir, when I say right thinking is always in the present. It's in the moment. So it is not of time. Can I observe that is the question? Generally we want this change should come about very quickly, and especially we are talking about how does it matter if I change? I want the whole society to change. Here K is talking about, it is not of time. The moment you talk about time, then we are lost. When you want the change to come about in the society quickly and immediately, he says we don't have to look at that way. What he says is essential is for me to change. Can I observe that is the question, sir?
I think you have raised it beautifully. Uh, if we can really see that I'm leading a fragmented life, then there's bound to be some change. We are not seeing that completely. We know that as a fact, but we don't see that. We don't feel it from our bones, from our heart, that I'm leading a fragmented life. If we do that.
And also he mentions, sir, the change in the society is secondary. Absolutely. It is secondary. What is essential is you need to change. That is what he says.
Yeah. I'm the society. Society is not.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Mr. Ramarao, you didn't respond to what the other people said. Would you like to say something after you raised a point? Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. So you are muted. You are muted. Unmute. No, not
Yeah,
yet.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, now it is okay. Sir, another part of my question is attitude. What is it means like right, means like a relationship between this right thinking and the right attitude?
Harshad bhai, you want to respond to this?
About right thinking, right
And
action.
relation between right thinking and attitude.
Yeah. I would first respond to Anandji's question, whether we can see thinking very clearly. And I would say yes, we can, provided we are in that state of attention or whatever you call awareness, silence. So it is like being in an empty room and somebody enters the room, you know that somebody has come. So that is the state of extreme alertness, awareness is required to see how thoughts are coming. And that can happen when we are motivelessly curious to look at our own thinking and forgetting everything what Krishnamurti has said, because that will come as an interference. If we carry all the knowledge which we have gathered from Krishnamurti, then we remain in the word of thinking, knowledge. So one needs freedom at the beginning. What also Krishnaji said that. So that can come only when we are very, very curious, not in order to become somebody, but we are just curious as scientists are curious about the clouds, or children are curious about the butterfly, or so, not trying to gather knowledge, but just looking. So this can happen, yes. So it is possible, and only then there is this right thinking, right action comes from such observation of what is as it is coming. As Anandji said, it is in the present moment. Thinking is it is unfolding all the time. And so to be in touch with that thinking, it is like moving with what is, and in that there is no what should be, there is no conflict. It's like riding on the wave of thinking in which psychological time, which creates problem, doesn't exist. So this is what I feel about that it is possible to look clearly. Even when anger is coming, one can be in touch and say that, yes, anger is arising. And this is also Buddhist teachings of Vipassana. It's just to see whatever is happening. And many, many people have been able to do that. So it is not only Krishnamurti can do it, many, many people in the past and present, they are doing it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Sir,
Harshad
that's
bhai.
I asked attitude, not action.
Let me try and share my understanding, Mr. Ramarao. Uh, let's see what right thinking is, as Krishna has talked about. Right thinking comes by knowing ourselves, which means, as Harshad bhai mentioned, by seeing things as they are, without any judgment, without any measurement. If we can see things as they are, then there will be right thinking, and right thinking means right action. Action will emanate from there. And attitude is basically, which is based on my conditioning, how I have been brought up. what kind of values I have got from my family, from society, from peers, and so on. My attitude is defined by that. But if there is right thinking, there will be right attitude as well. This is the way I look at it. I may be totally wrong, but this is the way I feel it should be. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
It's perfect, sir. I mean, attitude is again it's conditioned. It's what I mean. The society says I have to be a good human being, and also it's it's again it's from my father, my teacher, and the nation that you have to be a good person or good human being. So again, there's authorities involved in it. So the right attitude is in time. Whereas right action it is in the moment. When in the moment when the self is not there, you have this perception, clarity, and out of that clarity, there's action. Oh,
Dinesh ji wants to say something. Yes, please unmute yourself. Unmute. Unmute. You have not been able to unmute yourself. No. Yes, you can talk now. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Whatever we have discussed, this is the very subject of Mahabharata as well. And whatever we were talking, Arjun was also feeling in the same way the doctor was feeling. And as Krishnaji said, that is the perfect solution. Everybody should, if there will be no war, if everybody is free from their individual me or I. But that seems to be a very ideal situation. And whatever Krishna has suggested Arjun, that first you know yourself, what your role is basically in the moment, and you have to follow that role, and you have to do the war. We see that in this case also we see the fact that Krishnamurti has not gone and convinced everybody that nobody should be involved in war. He remained silent because his role was different. So one has to understand, one has to go for the self-knowing, understand what his role is, and then only the right thinking can come from that. That's what I feel. Because this seems to be very ideal situation that everybody should be free from their me, and there will be a whole holistic thinking. Everybody has got holistic thinking, and they will be free from their me, and then right thinking will come. So as far as Harshadji said, everybody should look without involving me and all that. So that seems to be very ideal situation. One has to really understand his role first, and then as he said that karmadne vadikaraste ma phaleshu kajatyan. So he has to act whatever the best possible way in the present moment according to his role. That's what I feel, sir. What do you have to say, Dubey sir?
I have very little knowledge of Gita, so I really can't comment much on that. But I know a little bit of tradition where we define dharma as in 4 parts. Dharma is it's not religion. I mean, as the English translation goes, dharma consists of 4 parts. First is duty. What is the duty of the towards its subjects and so on? You know, what is the duty of a student towards me? Then second part is swabhav, your attitude. I mean, the water will flow and fire will burn. So that is its swabhav, right? And similarly, third is what is called dharana, to hold, to unite people, all that. That is part of religion. I mean, we can't call it religion, we call it dharma, because religion is normally constituted to be faith and panth and all that. So I'm not getting into all that, but when we talk of role, how do we define this? Then why is he in turmoil? Because the role of a soldier is to fight. Why should he be in turmoil? But Krishna asking a deeper question. Why is there a war? Why is one man killing the other in the name of mentality? What Arjuna
What?
wants, I'm not questioning what Krishna said because I have very little knowledge to ask and question him. But Krishna is asking a very deep question as that the war is because of the division between one nation and the other, or one person and the other. It's because we want to satisfy ourselves. And at that situation, I'm not bothered about the other human being. For me, he or she doesn't exist. So it's a larger question. Why was Arjun so upset because he didn't get the 3 or 5 villages he sought for? Can't he say that, okay, I don't care, I'll live my life? So I think it's a very deeper question. So one
Yeah.
can't say that was right and this is wrong, or this is right and that is wrong. It can't be said like that. But
As long as sir fragmentations are there, your interests are different, my interests are different, and our motives are different. There will be always a conflict, and conflict will result in war.
yes. And the society is promoting fragmentation because, I mean, I may be a very loving father, but when I go to the office, I'm a tyrannical person. I treat my subordinates like I'm dictator. And the society says, yes, very good. You're a very efficient officer or very efficient principal or director. So I think these are questions that we have to ask ourselves, that why am I leading a fragmented life? Can't it be same everywhere? I'm the same person, whether I'm in office or with friends or at home. I'm the same person, so I have to be same. Why do I have different values to suit different circumstances?
Yes. And actually, this attitude comes from the individual understanding,
Yes,
understanding of the individual person at that in that moment particular
yes. Or my background, how I've been.
background. Yes.
Shakti ji, you have been quiet all the time. Say something. Unmute, sir. Unmute नहीं हुआ अभी.
He is not able to unmute, sir.
Yeah, now
Now it's okay. Yeah.
now I can, because it was coming on the screen that the participant cannot unmute by himself.
Okay.
Yeah, you see, when I was reading this, there are two things which attracted my attention as a study material, because one is this right thinking, not right thoughts. Usually these words, they are used they're like synonyms. But there is another book by Dr. David Bohm. It talks about, in fact, dialogues with other people. And he has used the word felt, feeling and felt. So that gives a little bit light on this, because he says that feeling is that is happening in the present moment. And felts are which are accumulated from the past and they are just popping up. So here Krishnamurti talks about that nor is right thinking having good thoughts or right thoughts, which are but limited, incomplete. So about thinking,
We can't hear you, Shakti ji. We can't
Yeah,
hear.
now I can unmute. You see, because
Okay.
I was coughing, so
Okay.
I muted myself,
Okay.
and then it was impossible to unmute. So what I'm saying is that this right thinking has been a very important uh, subject in Krishnamurti's teachings, because it was not like he was talking about these things in 50s and 40s, because as once I shared that in his last lecture on 4th January 1986 at Madras, Chennai, he invited people to, he was talking about creation, and he said that if you have made a mess of your life, change it. Change it today, not tomorrow. If you are uncertain, find out why and be certain. If your thinking is not straight, think straight, logically. Unless all that is prepared, all that is settled, you can't enter into this world, into the world of creation. So I feel this has been my understanding after reading this, that when he's talking about thought here, he's talking about something which is coming from the accumulation. Like he's telling that right thinking is not having good thoughts or right thoughts, which are but limited, incomplete. So Harshad ji will say something about it, but I just want to present to all of you this feeling that for me, the right thinking is that which doesn't come from personal memory, which is something which comes from awareness, maybe, because this is not my experience. And thought is always from personal memory or collective memory, and it is limited, incomplete. So at nowhere Krishnamurti is telling the thinking as a tool itself is a problem. But in the light of awareness, thinking is something else. And when there is no awareness, it is mechanical thinking. I think that mechanical thought he's calling thought in this chapter. And thinking which is not mechanical, about which he also says that is to think through, but through self-awareness of what one thinks and feels, and by thinking and feeling them out as fully, as completely as one can. So this is about awareness, thinking in awareness. This is what I have learned from this excerpt. Thank you very much, sir.
Sir, I would like to say something. I would like to ask something. Sir, let me put it very straight.
Yeah.
If today war starts, let me put very straight. If today war starts, it may be a hypothetical question, but are we prepared for it? What should be our attitude? What should be our thinking? The question is to Mr. Harshad Parekh and Dubey, sir.
Yeah. May I say something?
Yes, sir.
Harshad bhai, I'll take 1 minute and
Okay.
narrate something with Krishna ji. After Washington talks, somebody asked him that, sir, you are talking about peace. I think it was talked in the United Nations, not Washington, I'm sorry. And he said, if you are confronted with a rogue and he hits you, how will you bring about peace? You have been talking about peace for so long. He said, sir, first of all, you live a peaceful life for 20 years, you will know the answer. So hypothetical questions can't get real answers. It only be what I think about it and can answer, either I can be politically correct or I can be very blunt. So unless we are in that position, how do we answer this question? Because this is a very, very deep and important question that you have raised. The kind of world we are living in, because we have conflicts everywhere. Every day there is some terrorist being caught by our security forces, whether he has come from Pakistan or whatever. And there are people being killed from both sides. Now, what is the answer? Do I say that there should be no war? Gandhiji said that there are situations where non-violence is justified. I don't know if that is correct, but I'm just quoting him. So these are issues. Yes, Harshad Bhai, please, then Durga Rani.
Yeah, okay. I like to say that we are generally, mostly, we are not thinking. Thinking is happening to us, and there are many thoughts are coming, and we are not even aware of it. So we are not thinking, thinking is happening to us, but there is a possibility in us to watch thinking very clearly. So if we hear that there is a war coming, we know that fear will come. And that fear, when it is seen through this choiceless awareness, the fear doesn't arise, just like anger and all other problems. So as long as there is this awareness which is watching everything which is coming, there are no problems. Even I would say that if you are walking in a forest and if you see an animal like tiger, you can still watch. But the moment the thinking will arise, what will this tiger will do to me, fear will come, and then there are incomplete actions will happen. And maybe the tiger will actually come to you. But if you are just looking, there is no problem. Tiger can also look at you. It has happened to me in the Valley School and also in Sayadri School, and happened with snakes also. There is a danger only when this thinking comes, which creates fear. And what is needed is that ongoing, effortless, motiveless awareness to look at whatever is unfolding. And without that, thinking will create many problems. And the wars which we see, wars happening between countries, it is because there are wars happening within human beings in form of conflict, something which has not been seen very clearly. So we are fighting within the family, in the society, in politics, everywhere there is this fight is going on, and then it is magnifying at the scale of international level, and countries are fighting. So I would agree with Krishnaji that we can't solve these problems of wars. Only we can look at very clearly how everything is starting within us, even the thinking, how it is starting and what it is creating. So that is probably the only thing we can do, is to very curiously look not on when problems arises, but even when there are no problems, to look. It's like, Kabir said, dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein koi nahi. So only when there are problems, we begin to think about all this Krishnamurti or spiritual literature. But this has to go on every day without any reason, without any cause. Then when there is something suddenly comes, a war, then we'll know how to deal with that problem of war or violence around us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Harshad Bhai. I think Durga ji wants to say something. Please go ahead.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, like, I think so far, we have like discussed into all the the relevant points and all, like based on all your contributions. Yeah, it's not about asking rhetorical questions and neither rhetorical answers. And one more thing is, sir, there is there is, he also says there is no element of time here. It's a, I think Krishnaji is all about, making us more and more aware of ourselves, our life, our situations. And I think it's an ongoing journey, day-to-day journey, and everyday kind of a journey. So there is nothing called, he's neither giving solutions, nor it is not offering any kind of carrot and kind of a thing. Nothing is like that. He's just making us asking us to be more and more aware of your situations, of your life, and all those things. And when we look at this entire extract, there are there are deeper aspects of it, there are lighter aspects of it. Like, sometimes we go into too much of a mindset of, Krishnaji said freedom is fast, right thinking, not right thinking, observe, like, we have to start from the simple to the complex, then the more complex issues. So first of all, as I suggested earlier, like, as we all talking, each situation, like you also said, observing your own self, what kind of a person, human being I am, what are my responses to other people in the, like you also said, you are somebody, you behave in a particular pattern at one place, and when you go out you behave in a different pattern. And you are very friendly with your all male friends, and where women are concerned, maybe you are too egoistic, you don't allow women same kind of a role, same kind of a importance, same kind of a freedom you don't give. What kind of a person you are? So he's asking us to look more and more into all these things. So those are the deeper and deeper aspects of it. So it's an entire kind of a study of oneself. And more and more, any situation comes, like, this fellow here, he's worried about the war, the killing, and the people getting maimed, and again it's starting again. So somewhere it's not about finding some solution and be happy with it. So somewhere you have to turn towards the whole of it, a holistic nature of life. It's the you have to take the nature into consideration, the consciousness, the totality of it. So slowly and slowly he's asking us to look into all of that. What is responsibility, what is as your mention of dharma has come here, what is the righteous way of living? There is so much to human life. It's not about just people getting killed and maimed, like animals and like cattle, just because a few countries or few human beings decide that there should be war. Is it what life is all about? What is the divine nature of life? What is the holistic nature of life? He's asking us to, he's not telling in so many words, but he's asking us to probe into all these things, look into all these things. So, and very nicely, I think Shakti ji has brought out a very beautiful extract. It's the last extract. I think that those were the last words of his public speaking. If you have messed up your life, you sort it out right now, today, not tomorrow, and then you enter into the world of creation, he says. So it's about sorting out your own life affairs also, your relation with your own. It's not about the we are concerned about the terrorists, the war, the Afghanistan, all that. I also mentioned about all these things. Those are all there. As human beings and aware human beings, we do take all these things into consideration. What am I in my day-to-day life? What is my relationship with my wife, my husband, my kids? Am I too possessive about them? Am I too demanding of them? So can we all look into all those things also? Because everything starts from there. Everything starts from there. The very basics of it, the very basic foundations of it, and it is on and on and on. There is no end to it. And he also says there is no time about it. Don't think about what am I going to get, when am I going to get. I think we have to be completely out of that set of mind. Then only the totality of seeing, the totality of without right efforts, we may start moving towards that direction, sir. I think that's all I want to say for the time being. Let me hear about what others have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Durga. I think any inquiry of this kind has to start with a sense of honesty and ethical behavior. That is absolutely essential before we move on to any inquiry. Otherwise, we'll be
Dubey sir, Dubey
basically,
sir,
Dinesh ji,
Dubey sir.
we'll hear Ravi,
Yeah.
and then we'll come to you. Okay. Ravi from Uttarkashi. Please go ahead. Unmute yourself. Unmute. Yes.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everybody. And I would like to thank Shakti ji for bringing that talk, Madras talk, and giving the platform to this talk, this discussion. The right thinking is a new word for me, and my mind is resisting to this word, and I am unable to understand the word. My question is actually, first thing I would like to accept that I do not know the art of listening, art of watching, art of observing. So my question is, what is the difference between observation and right thinking? Because it seems to me that both are same thing. Thank you.
Shakti, you want to respond? Unmute. Yes.
You see, it's not an answer, it's an observation. One thing is that usually, if one has read a few books of Krishnamurti, especially from 70s or early 80s, and so then this the phrase right thinking, it creates a sort of resistance. But if one has read Krishnamurti's literature a little bit extensively, his talks in 40s, 30s, and 50s there, and of course he talks about think straight in his last talk. So this, the observation and right thinking and non-mechanicalness, all these things are somewhere related. You see, I am giving an intellectual answer, to be very honest. Harshad ji can give you the different type of answer because he has been a sadhaka. But these, I have understood it, maybe it is my understanding is faulty, that when he uses the word right thinking here, and also at other places he has used them, he has talked about it in his conversations with Dr. David Bohm in The Ending of Time. So when there is observation, when there is self-knowing, when there is a non-mechanical attitude, then what happens to the tool called thinking? That is what he's saying, right thinking. So observation and right thinking are interconnected. So this, we don't have any experience of that, most of us, but we do have experience that when we think mechanically, we think like, it's not there is no thoughtfulness in that. There is no, subtleness in that. So to be watchful, to be observant, and then to see what happens to our thinking and what happens to our thinking when there is no awareness. This is what I am learning from this, this type of exercise. Thank you very much.
Ravi, I would like to ask a question from you since you asked this question. I mean, what do you see is observation and right thinking? How do you look at it? Since you have been reading Krishnamurti, how do you take it? What is observation?
Actually, I would like to describe the thinking and thought first. I don't exactly know the answer, so I am trying to start from the bottom. Like thoughts may be 2 or 3 types. The first thought is natural, mechanical thought, which comes and goes, and we have abundance of thoughts, sometimes little less, sometimes little more. And there is another thought which comes from the actually I don't know the second thought, but the thinking is quite 2 types, like thinkings from memory or whatever he Krishnamurti talked about, and I am really agree with that. It's all coming from the past and memories. But and another thinking is intelligence, using human intelligence, my own brain intelligence, which I respect a lot, because that thinking itself brings me closer to the truth. Maybe or may not be, because that thinking is as a tool to introspect, to create doubt and bifurcate it, divide it, and find out the truth, what is true and what is false. And if that is false, keep it aside. And if it seems to true, then move ahead and bifurcate it, intersect it, postmortem it. So that intelligence, human intelligence, I do respect a lot. And that intelligence comes from your own doubts, your own questions, uh, and in that case you doubt yourself as well as others, thinking all the books, rituals, holy books, whatever Krishna said, whatever Arjun said, or whatever you are. So that thinking is most important till date for me, to bring closer to Krishnamurti's teaching. And observation, what I do understand, observation is yet, yeah, I yet to understand. I'm trying to understand. That means you have to see the whole thing, whole picture, the whole world, 360 degree, in every direction, in every degree. Means I think that there is no limited of 360 degree. Every degree has one, again the 360 degree. 360 degree. So what Krishnamurti is talking about, you have to see the whole thing. If you are looking, listening someone, not only the words, but the gap between the words, the motive between the word, the intention between the word. And when you listen to that, suddenly you realize that this guy is have ill motive, and this guy has good motive. Like I had been thinking since long for Jallianwala Bagh case. Many people think that General Dyer was responsible for the war, Jallianwala Bagh, but I do not think. The one person cannot be responsible. It was his duty. He was dedicated to the British Raj, and whatever he was doing, he thought that it's right. And there were some subordinate, the police inspector or whatever you call, army, and all the recruiters were Indians. They had guns. General Dyer just ordered them that kill these people, shoot, and they started shooting. Those Indians can stop that Jallianwala Bagh by just turning their back to the masses and killing that Dyer. That can happen, but none of them use that intelligence to revolt against General Dyer and see that that these people are innocent, have no war, no armor or no guns, or they are not harming anyone. But they didn't do that. The same thing happened to Mangal Pandey when they were using those grenades, and he said that I cannot use these grenades because it has animal skin. So that intelligence worked on that, and the revolution started happening. So I feel that you have to see the words, not only the words, uh, gap between the words and whole thing. And sometimes while listening you get motivated by the speaker, but after sometimes the thought, when thought stops, and you see the whole picture. And then again, then it that thinking says that this is wrong, this is right, you have to take the decision. And what Vagmaraj or somebody asked about Arjuna and war and this and that, what should be my stand? If there is a war, what should be my stand? I think whether it was Arjuna or Krishna Samvad was right or wrong, I don't know, because intentionally from inner being, Arjuna was against the war, but uh, Krishna motivated him to have the war. I have a really doubt upon that. That is it a followership, dictatorship, a relationship between the two friends, or just a pity somebody should follow? Or the Arjun did not use his own intelligence or own intuition, or he was motivated by Krishna. I am yet to understand those things. Thank you.
Ravi, I'll just take 2 minutes. I think uh, don't get, I mean, just my advice. Since I think I'm older than you are, so I'll just give my advice. Don't get too much bogged down by the words. Krishnaji has spoken 20 million words, which are compiled in 90 volumes, 1200 audio cassettes, and 1500 physical. And when people ask him, what are you teaching? He said, there is nothing like teaching. Just know yourself. So I think one thing is very certain. We have to, first of all, read, which is basically reading, understanding, and then questioning with my own life. Is it right? The sense of doubt and inquiry, everything that you read. This is what you can prove it, that if there is no memory, there will be no thought. Thought is a response of memory. We know that. People who become vegetable, they can't have any thought because they don't have memory. But I'll suggest that Krishna was not a man of great scholarship, so he used words in different ways at different occasions. If you see really deeply, listening, observation, working together, all means the same thing. If there is an absence of measurement and the self is not involved, it gives a different flavor. Normally, when we listen to somebody, we are listening to find an answer. We have a question to ask. Either we say, I have already heard it, or I'm going to ask a question. But can we listen without any of that? That is the challenge he poses before us. So I'll say read in between the lines, not read the lines as well, but also see in between. That is my advice. Dinesh, you want to say something? Then we'll go to Anandji.
Dubey sir, are you suggesting or are you, do you want to say that right thoughts are based on your old conditioning and all this thing, all other your old conditioning, and right thinking is in the moment based on the fact and seeing the fact and the demand of the moment?
I think this is what Krishna is saying. We have to test it out. He says that right thinking means seeing things as they are, without any distortion. But we have to test it out in our life. Is that what it is? But that is the statement he has made in what we have just read. Anandji.
So, I mean, when I come across some dangers, when I'm at a precipice, I say, I better move from the place. Isn't that right thinking? I see a danger and I say I should move. That is what is right thinking.
Yes.
It is in the moment. There's a danger and I see it. There's a perception of that danger and there's an action. And rest of it is all my conditioning, sir. I mean, I may reason, rationalize, I talk about, what is right and what is wrong, what Krishna did, what Arjuna, that's all rationalizing and we're reasoning it out. I mean, what is the truth? It is not what they have done. The fact is, what am I doing? That is what I need to look at, not what others have done it. In fact, I mean, K is not trying to make us become aware. Someone said, he's trying to make us aware. No, he can't. Then I'm making him an authority. But conditioning is so strong, I fall back into, I fall back every time, every moment. I'm back to my conditioning. I'm back to my likes and dislikes, biases and prejudices. I'm caught in that. Can I observe that is the question, sir? Like we say, we should, like, in fact, K probably in the last minute, he says, if you can't think straight, he says, think straight. Maybe that is out of, I mean, there's nothing wrong in it. But, at least he thought, he was trying to at least connect in the last minute. I mean, he didn't have time. It says, okay, you think straight if you can't think straight. There's nothing wrong in it. But then previously, he wouldn't have said that. He wouldn't have said that. So that is how I would look at it. I mean, to understand, I mean, what K is saying, I need to put a question mark. The moment I say, I know what he's saying, or I know what he means this, or he does not mean that, I'm back to my conditioning. Even when it says think straight, I need to look at it without coming to any conclusions or, I mean, without falling back on my likes and dislikes. Only then, probably, within quotes, I'm saying, there may be an understanding. I don't know. But can I start? I haven't even started. Like somebody said, give us freedom. Yes, there's a general. It is true. Women don't have that kind of a freedom, but K is talking about something else when he talks about freedom. It is something else. I mean, freedom means responsibility. Freedom means care. Freedom means affection. Freedom means compassion. Do I have that? That is what I need to look at it. The word freedom, we use it very loosely. I mean, freedom and responsibility go together. They are same. So It is always, it's a challenge to look at these things, to look at the words without coming to conclusions, without falling back to my conditioning. Can I listen to what he's saying? That's about all. And can I also observe my own interpretations of what he's saying? That is very essential. Over, sir.
Thank you. I think Durga ji wants to say something, and then Dinesh ji again. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think allow me to just express my appreciation to Mr. Ravi. I think he's I haven't seen him earlier. Like his contribution is like, fresh breath of air from the mountains. I think he's from Uttarkashi or something somewhere. Yeah. Yes, sir. I think we should also fall back onto cliches in Krishnamurti books, sir. I think our mind also get, so much stuck in the words of Krishna ji. Can we just leave Krishna ji and just look at life the way we like it, the way it comes to us, somewhere Krishna ji also has become a problem for us. The words have become so cliches, I think we may have got stuck in that. We need to observe that also, sir. I think, he has, it's about how you look at things, what you perceive from the things. I think whatever the previous speaker, Mr. Ravi, has said, thinking, unless and until you're thinking, you have to know, then only right thinking comes. You shouldn't be blaming of your thoughts, your thinking. If you start blaming everything, then where will we start off? So it's about Krishna ji has stated so many fundamental statements. Can we just keep them in our mind? Like he says, don't bother about the time, and there are no destinations. All these are, I think, this is a common practical wisdom also. So just keep them in mind and look at life freshly. Keep looking at ourselves or understanding ourselves the way we are, because we are the spirited human beings, not some kind of a, he says, don't be a second-rate citizen, second-rate human being, So can we just look at into those practical and basic things also? Yes, sir. Regarding this last second paragraph, one more point I would like to read it, sir. So he says, the last paragraph, last but few lines, but through self-awareness of what one thinks and feels, and by thinking and feeling them out as fully and completely as one can. So I think we need to understand that. So any given time, only that much we can think of. It's not that there is some, again our mind plays some tricks. There is something else Krishna ji is pointing out. So I'm not getting it. So we make ourselves into misery. So he says, at a given point of time, what are the best you can do? What are the best things you can think about? So use your own application, use your own common sense, take all the inputs. Of course, he said, don't read, I haven't read any books, but nothing stops me from reading books. In fact, Bhagavad Gita, it made a lot of sense to me. So he said, for him, not reading books is okay. But for me, picking wisdom from them, Krishna is not going to come and stop me from there. So it's up to you. It's up to me. What wisdom I can pick up. I know what I can do with all that. So somewhere, we are maybe binding ourselves too much into all these, fears of these words, these statements and the phrases also. So, and one more, my favorite statement used to be, sir, in order to understand, we need to keep the books away. We need to look at the life, and we need to take the inputs from our life more often. That is better than, getting stuck in Krishnamurti words and Krishnamurti books and Krishnamurti words so much, sir. There is so much of wisdom available all around us, but provided we are open to receive it. He's just asking us to look at. He's pointing us to do that. And there is nothing like, you gain everything in one moment, in one lifetime. I will say even one lifetime also. It's a journey, it's just a beginning. And see these things, appreciate these things, and discuss. And more you discuss, more you listen and hear from everybody, new perspectives emerge in. Because at given time, my life, I can only understand these many things by listening to others. My perspectives are also emerging. They are getting, getting a new fresh of air or something like that. So I think it's all about being more open about ourselves and our life. Yeah, that's what I have to say, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Durga ji. Dinesh ji, please unmute yourself. Unmute.
Sir, what I would like to say that I would like to address what Durgaji said and Anand said. One as Krishnaji said, one can move and learn, but similarly, one can also learn from the past. And the same thing which we are trying to do in this moment. We should learn from our past what solutions were there in the past for such situations, like in Gita or what Krishna, even we are trying to understand what Krishnaji is trying to point out. So we can learn from our past at the same time. What he means by holistic thinking, in my view, is one should be, to best his competence level, should be aware of what possible best solutions from the past, as well as what are the different aspects in the present moment, and then only one can move with the solution. That's what I think, sir.
Dineshji, I think from Krishnamurti's point of view, what you are talking about is the clever use of thought. That's the way we think intelligence. But he is not talking of that kind of intelligence. He says there is no intelligence without compassion. So what you are saying is what we do in our normal life, which we do on daily life, and people who use the past for their present and future actions are such a very clever people. And I'm not denying all that, but that's not the kind of intelligence Krishna talks about. That's the
So
difference.
what I was trying to say, actually, we should use all the aspects of our personality and all the dimensions of our personality, including your intellect, including your heart, including your this all feeling, compassion, love. All the aspects should be covered. Then only it can be a holistic thinking.
So nobody stops us from doing all that anyway. So we can do whatever we want to do. So long we are happy doing what we are doing, I think that's okay. Krishna never gives a solution, let me tell you. He only points about certain things. But you have to do the hard work. And the traditional literature gives the path. There is no difference between Buddha and Krishna, but Buddha gave a path, the fourfold path, and how to reach there. Krishna tells you that to start from the other shore. But how do you go there, he doesn't tell you. So that's the difference. That's the difference. Who is right, who is wrong, I don't know. But I
So
think
one thing,
we need Krishna. It's very, very important.
What I think, sir, in my views, all these are the different aspect of the life. These are the different dimensions and different viewpoint of a similar situation or a particular situation.
Sir, truth has to be same. It's not anybody's property or it's a right of anybody. So there are different paths. Whatever path appeals to you or to me or to anybody, we are free to take that path. I mean, there is a bhakti marg and there is a gyan marg. All that people have been tried. I mean, Ramakrishna Paramhans didn't read. He was illiterate. He didn't read anything. But he was an evolved man. Krishna had not read any literature. He didn't pass any exam, not even matriculation. So education, and so was Kabir or Ravidas or so many other people. But for ordinary people like us, some knowledge, some understanding, some testing in our life, all that helps. So there is no prescription that you do this and you'll reach there. One has to keep on trying and see what suits us. But here is a man who has experienced this in his own life. And when he says this, he says with lots of confidence. You know, I'll just mention you a story. One of the trustees of the foundation was telling, I'll name it, Ahilyachari, late Ahilyachari, that she asked Krishnaji that when you talk to people in Banaras, more than 3/4 people don't understand English. And when I talk to them, they feel impacted by what you are saying. How do you say this? And Krishna said, yes, you are right. He didn't say anything about it. Then she said, I have been reading you and listening to you for more than 40 years now. And when people ask me a question, I say exactly the same words that you use. are they not true? And he said, no, they are true, but there is no truth in it because you are not living in it. It's very important for me that do I do that in my daily life? That is very important. Otherwise, any amount of literature said there are, I don't know, 108 Upanishads. What do we do with it? We have such a repository of knowledge, but knowledge doesn't transform us. It's only the wisdom that transforms. If knowledge was the main source of transformation, then all the Nobel laureates would have been the most evolved people, but they're not. They suffer from the same problems that you and I suffer from.
Right, sir.
I think we are close to our time, so we can take maybe one or two comments and close in 5 minutes.
May I say something, sir?
Yes, yes, Shakti, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot you. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah.
Yes.
You see, there is one expression in English, being worldly wise. And also, on Sunday, there was this excerpt read by Mr. Gopalan, that an excerpt from Krishnamurti, that intelligence is the daughter of wisdom. So somewhere what happens is that about right thinking, what I can say is that I don't know what is right thinking. As Anandji said, that the moment I assert that I have understood what Krishnamurti is talking about, it is, I cannot even say that I have read Dostoevsky and I can tell you what exactly that I understand what he was trying to say. Dostoevsky knows it better. So, but we can share our viewpoints. And like Raviji said from Uttarkashi about General Dyer, and I think differently. But these are thoughts which are based on our calculation, our analysis, our past, the journey of our life. You see, and then Krishnamurti is talking about self-knowledge. He's not, I don't think that he's talking about to understand his teaching. He's talking about to understand ourselves. And to understand ourselves, he's telling that look at the outside world, look at yourself. And if that is happening in our life, and it's a big if, then perhaps we might come across right thinking. What is right thinking? Because otherwise we are in the world of thought. We say this thought is right, this thought is wrong. So then, and we can never be sure that which is right or which is wrong. There can be some truth in that, some truth not in that. So with this, I would like Harshad ji to say something about this question of being assertive about Krishnamurti's statements, even if one has gone through experience, because Krishnamurti has talked with different hues, with different words, with different things. So it's not just intellectual, it's much more than that, it's existential. So please, Harshad ji, please say about something. Thank you.
Yeah, what I feel is that the right thinking, it comes from silence, from clarity. Like the way Krishna ji talking, it comes from clarity, silence. And this wrong thinking is the thinking which comes with disturbance within. And it could be intellectual disturbance, and it creates problems in relationship, conflicts. We get carried away by this wrong thinking, because in that there is a lot of I, me is involved, But right thinking, it just comes effortlessly from silence and clarity. That's what I feel. So Krishnaji doesn't think what he's going to say next, but everything is coming in a proper order. So that I would consider the right thinking, coming from clarity, silence, and all the other wholeness, in which there is no sense of I speaking and giving some ideas or opinions. Okay, finish.
Thank you. Thank you,
Sir,
Arshad.
can I say 2 lines, sir?
Yeah, please let it be the last
Like,
one.
yeah, it is true, sir. We learn from our past. There's no doubt about it. I went on a particular road. There was a pothole. I met with an accident. So today I won't go. I mean, I'm careful when I go on that particular road to avoid that pothole. Functionally, that is very important. That is essential. The problem arises psychologically when I say I'm learning from the past. It isn't so. So I need to see how I get caught. You know what happens functionally that turns into psychological. So that is where I mean that is misleading for us. Can I look at that as a question, sir? That's about all. Yeah.
Thank you, Anandji. Thank you. Sushil ji, should we close now? I think Sushil ji has already left. Kamlesh ji, we can close now.
You can announce the Sunday meeting topic if it is with you.
Sunday, we are meeting at 11 o'clock. We have Dr. Roshan Dalal. She's an ex-student of Rishi Valley, and she has done her PhD in history from Jawaharlal Nehru University. And recently, she has written a book on Krishnamurti, which has become a little controversial. Dr. David Moody, who was one of our speakers here at least twice, he has reviewed that book and pointed out certain important issues with the book. But that apart, we'll meet on Sunday and she'll talk about Krishnamurti's vision of education. So basically on educational issues, she's going to talk about. So we are all welcome to join 11 o'clock Sunday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
May I end the meeting, sir?
Yes, sir.